Oh, guys, good, you hear? I am so excited. Guess what? I hope this isn't about your podcast again. Why, did you finally listen to it?
Da-da-da-da, 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 the Groomer Next Door production.
I was looking in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly to my surprise, he did the monster mash. He did the mash, the monster mash. The monster mash, it was a graveyard smash. He did the mash, it caught on in a flash. He did the mash, the monster mash. Flow from my laboratory in the castle east. Flow to the master bedroom with a vampire feast. The ghouls all came from their humble abode to get a joke for my retro. He did the mash, the monster mash. The monster mash, it was a graveyard smash. The monster mash, it caught on in a flash. The monster mash. Whoa.
Created a minor national claim and push island just to pick up Scottish Barry Wallace, who had left behind. Well, life up. I checked. Hey, I actually stopped driving. Doc, but it. I really. I stopped the car. Like traffic. Stop. But the car. I brought her. And luckily. But it was really hurt, different. So I was down. Oh, wow. It was frozen, and I lucky. So I President Roosevelt knew I kind of well by that time, Dr. Todd. No, that then. Well, Dr. Corey Todd.
Oh, hello. Hold on a sec. Dad, we have a guest on the podcast.
All right, this week on the podcast, we are very fortunate. We are going to be gifted by being able to talk to Dr. LAURIE Coger, and she is a holistic vet. She is an animal expert. She's an author. You have an expo. You have so much going on, and we are going to get into all of it, and I am looking so forward to our conversation. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Chris.
It's always a pleasure.
It's great.
As I told you, I definitely love to empower women in the industry, and I just think that you guys are you're pioneers. And I'm just so looking forward to learning as much about you and have this conversation.
Yes.
So start us
definitely
off with your origin story. How did it all begin?
Oh, wow. Well, I grew up in New York Catskill region, so about 100 miles north of New York City. And I had dogs and horses growing up, and I was a 4-H'er. So it was always about animals. And, you know, I don't ever remember making a conscious decision that I would become a veterinarian. It always just was. If that makes sense to you, it just was a foregone conclusion. And, you know, through my 4-H experiences with my horses, with my dogs, you know, I was always going to state fair and, you know, working with a lot of the cooperative extension people who were based at Cornell. So it was like I almost knew my college before I got there because I knew so many people there. So I went to Cornell undergraduate, got a Bachelor of Science, Animal Science with honors, and spent a couple years waiting to get into veterinary college, but went to Cornell's veterinary college as well. And then very reluctantly left Ithaca because I had fallen in love with it. I spent a total of 10 years there. I intended to be a horse vet and wound up taking a small animal job that was going to start doing horses, but never did. And I kind of never looked back. I went to the dog side, as they say. And then there was a very traditional vet at that point in time. I came to the holistic stuff through an illness of my own dog that nothing else was working, and somebody said, hey, you need to put your dog on a natural diet. And it turned him around. And probably, as you know, that's how a lot of people come to natural diet. They've got a sick dog or a health problem that they're addressing, and they get that little push in the direction, and it takes off from there.
It's every time I have a conversation, this is exactly how it always starts. I just find it to be always so interesting because everybody says the same way. My dog was sick. I didn't know what to do. And there it was. And then, yeah, and then there. It just happened, and it worked. And then, almost to, I would say 90%, within like 2 months of making the switch and seeing the changes, the person has a little guilt attack of, why didn't I do this sooner? How didn't I know? You know, how could I have said that? And those are the people that become the ambassadors of natural diet, as I call them. Because you become so impassioned to teach and share. And I totally went through that. I'm like, how could I not know this? I'm a double Cornell graduate who did loads of nutrition classes. And in school, I happily fed science diet. The Hills Company donated it to the school, and the student chapter of the AVMA sold it to students for $10. You could buy a 40-pound bag for $10 or a case of canned. Yeah. Dog or cat food. And, I mean, of course, we're all poor vet students. We bought it. But I thought I was doing good. And, you know, in hindsight, I know I wasn't, but it was what I knew at the time. It's so strange, you know. Now, question I have is, I've heard that Purina, I think it was Purina, they actually make all of the veterinary textbooks. Is that accurate?
I don't know today. Remember, I graduated Cornell vet school in 1991. Back then it was Hills. And because I was an undergraduate in animal science, I had those nutrition courses. I was exempted from the one semester veterinary nutrition class. It was taught by Dr. Harold Hintz, who really sharp guy, knew his stuff. The materials I remember them using a lot were provided by Hill.
Yeah.
Purina really wasn't in the game yet. But, you know, without a doubt, Hills, Purina, Royal Canin, they're all present in the veterinary school, funding stuff, whether that be classes, materials, dinner for the students. There is a true influence there. Many vet schools are trying to minimize it, just as hospitals are trying to minimize pharmaceutical companies' access to their residents. But it still happens. And it does indoctrinate you.
Yeah, I bet it would. Well, I've heard it from different companies that they go into a veterinary clinic, and who's going to be going in there to be talking about the product besides Big Kibble? They're the ones that go in, and you don't see your holistic companies coming in because for whatever reason
they don't have the money.
That's it.
They're a small company, and you probably could name me 10 different commercial raw cooked dehydrated companies, and with but a couple exceptions.
Yep.
They don't have the funding. They're putting the money into the food and keeping it. Some of those products are really expensive because they're free range meat. If they were doing the marketing and such that a traditional pet food company is doing, the food would be twice the price, and they couldn't sell it.
Now, I looked at some video from, I think they were commercials from the 60s, 50s and 60s. And I looked at the actual commercials, and it looked like it was real meat. And it was... you raise a good point. You raise a very good point. You've seen these videos, right? They're out there, even gravy train.
Well, and... Yeah. That Hill Science diet that I fed in vet school, the first ingredient was chicken. It was a totally different food. We weren't importing stuff from China at that point. That's 25 years ago. The food itself was better. It was still biologically inappropriate, but it was better than what is out there now. And certainly it was lower carb.
And you would actually see more kids, and I use the whole idea with kids, but the kids were feeding, the table scrap, which had the dogs. Nowadays, not so much. And
I have owners come into my exam room proudly announcing that their dog gets no table feed. I'm like, why not?
Right.
When I was growing up, the leftovers always got thrown in the dog's dinner bowl, whatever they were, and however much, spread out amongst the dogs.
And their coats were healthy, their skin was healthy, their joints, everything was good. We didn't have all these problems. And now all of a sudden they're going, cancer is just so common, and dog allergies.
Yeah, now one in two dogs has cancer. And growing up, I grew up with Labradors, which the Aussie does, after I left vet school. But my dogs growing up didn't have allergies. They didn't have hypothyroidism. They certainly didn't have the cancer overnight. Occasionally they might get an upset stomach because they ate something they shouldn't or ate too much of something, but it never really affected them. I don't remember taking a sick dog to vet. Now, they didn't have ear infections. Now I'll have somebody come in 3 and 4 times a year for an ear infection, and you see them in the group
all the time.
The dogs are miserable.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to go into nutrition in a moment, but you hit the topic of Australian Shepherds, which I know is your passion. Now, you occasionally do get to breed them. You've got obedience behind you. You have showing. I'm always interested in hearing about how you got into it and all of your experiences with showing your Australian Shepherd.
Well, I remember I started off with Labradors before it. So, as a kid, we had a dog obedience program, and I had a Labrador named Cricket when I was 11 or 12 years old. She was supposed to be a hunting dog, and she didn't like water. She didn't really like the sound of gunshots. Didn't like any of that sort of stuff. So she became mine. And I actually put a companion dog title with AKC on her when I was 12. She was wonderful. Just a sweet little shy Labrador. And I had another one. We had several, never more than like 2, maybe 3 at a time. But I won some things at state fair, so I was just in obedience. and actually for my undergraduate graduation, I got a fancy yellow lab from a show kennel in New Jersey. And he, of course, was a gorgeous dog, started having seizures at the age of 18 months, and was a real health challenge, and he was the dog that changed my course of dog management and my entire belief system, really. Because I started out, I'm a vet. He's got phenobarb 3 times a day, and it did control his seizures largely. And then as time went on, he developed autoimmune hemolytic anemia because I over-vaccinated him. Totally in hindsight, would have been avoidable had I chosen a different path. He had one surgery because a boarded surgeon thought he had a sonic tumor, and that's why his red count was low. So he went on the table with a 28% red blood cell count, and Joe opened him up and looked at the stain and basically started sweating, and because he was wrong, he saw the blood coagulating as he made the incision, coagulating upon itself in an abnormal manner. And the spleen was perfect. So bless Joe's heart, he closed him up and he came off the table with that same red count. We started him on mega doses of prednisone, which responded to and stopped destroying his own red blood cells. And that was when I was introduced to the roll hard diet. They said, you try this because you've got the medicine, now you need to nourish the body. He did have a relapse, did have his spleen taken out because that's actually the site of most red blood cell destruction. But after a while, he stopped having seizures. I took him off all anticonvulsants, and he passed away naturally at an advanced age with great quality of life in between. Eating initially Volhard diet, which, are you familiar with that? Kind of the first raw diet plan that really got promoted in the U.S.
Yeah, I'm more or less now. I'm on bar. I'm on biologics.
Okay.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And Volhard diet still exists. The recipe basically involves an AM and a PM meal, one of which actually has a fair amount of grains in, and the other that is meat. Mm-hmm. And you made up your big batch and fed from that. But, things like oat roast and buckwheat and vegetables, and there was a whole supplement plan. But Wendy Volhard, Top Dog Training School, and Dr. Terry Brown, who has now passed away, a veterinarian in Syracuse, actually designed it and had it tested and formulated to totally comply with ASCO standards, which was groundbreaking at the time. Nobody else was feeding their own dog a homemade thing went to that level. Yeah. And of course, then I moved on to more barf and Frankenbarf and other feeding models.
Yeah, I've never really had any issues with any kind of model that outside of kibble. If it's kibble, then there's a problem. Anything that's actually more biologically appropriate in that, even in that region, I'm okay with it. Like some people say, well, no, the pre-made stuff, that doesn't work because you're taking out all the nutrients. I say at least it's away from kibble. We're at least taking away
from then, yeah.
The chemicals
I say so. Yes, I agree. The world is gray. There is no one perfect way. But every step away from kibble is a step towards a healthier dog.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, because it's inappropriate on so many levels. And, the commercial raw, some of them are actually very good. Some are not raw, they're high pressure pasteurized. Some are made from human quality ingredients, some aren't. But, you become an educated consumer and see what works in your life. And, if somebody can not buy kibble, their dog is going to be healthier.
Oh, I would say you can start feeding raw today after giving a dog kibble for 7 years, and within the next couple of days, you're already going to see an immediate change. And I mean, I'm talking about just quality of life. it's like a switch is turned on their brain. And they're like, hey, I'm happy again. Or I'm looking for...
And yeah. And I was talking with an owner today. Came in with a Cavalier King Charles and probably 5 pounds too stubby. And having all sorts of anal gland issues. And I'm like, he's eating a grain-free kibble that he gets at a higher-end pet store in my region. So I would imagine, think of your common premium, quote-unquote, premium kibble grain-free. Like, it has venison and cheese or something, duck and potato. So, he's not feeding old boy.
Right.
But I'm like, well, if you can just put a small proportion of real food in here, your dog is going to get better. And I've found by introducing owners to the idea that they can just do a little something, all of a sudden, they're ready to do it all.
Oh, yeah.
If you hit them with, you have to totally change it. It's too much for them to understand that, they can do it. Mm-hmm. But if you say, take away a quarter of that dog's kibble and replace it with some fresh meat and some green veggies, they're like, I could do that. And all of a sudden, they're starting to feed real food. But this guy was really excited by the idea that maybe he didn't have to bring his dog in to have his anal glands emptied every 2 weeks. But it's not high on my list of things to do.
It's the worst, isn't it? Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I had a dog.
10 years of an Ivy League in education, and I'm sticking my finger up a dog's butt.
Well, yes.
But we do what we need to do.
You can do I don't know how to do an internal. I don't know that, and I wouldn't try it. I just did the external. And
the external, sure.
It still gets the job done. It's not as potent as you're doing. But it is the worst thing, and that's something that unless anybody has ever had to do it, it is just, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And think of the poor dog. I mean, it must be uncomfortable sitting down, uncomfortable going to the bathroom every single day.
Right.
No, we need to help this situation out.
And that's, now I have a question about my own dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw my own issues out there, and that is where we feed raw, so we do about a chicken leg, all raw, chicken leg, some pork, and some beef, and then we put in. We tried doing the chicken foot, but she's so picky. She is so picky when it comes to it.
Yeah.
And then I do a second one where I puree green beans, fresh green beans. I'll do blueberries, coconut oil, turmeric, flaxseed. Let's see, 2 scoops of yogurt, and I think I'm missing some. Oh, and a raw egg. And I blend that up. Now the one that's pureed, I put that in the second one. Now, my big question I have with it is, as far as I know, pureeing it doesn't take any nutrients away, but she will not eat green beans or most of that on its own. Is that a bad thing, or is this okay?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's a bad thing. It sounds like a nice mix of things. I might look at doing some kale or some collard greens, some other types of greens besides green beans, just to get more variety.
Peas, broccoli.
Peas are more a start. I generally avoid them.
Really? Okay.
Broccoli's great. Cauliflower, fine. Brussels sprouts. I'll do zucchini. Like I said, collard greens, kale, anything, and spinach. All in a rotation or mix.
Right, and I do about a cup of peas and broccoli. The blueberries about a cup. All of these are all rationalized. Everything has an exact science to it, but I wanted to make sure because, and then she has sardines in her bowl. She'll eat that. She'll eat that other stuff, but she will not do the puree. Anything that's pureed, she'll eat it in that group, but not separate.
Yeah, but not separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you meet individuals who are just finished.
Yeah.
And the chicken foot. Some dogs, I don't know if they don't like texture or what, but I've heard of that before. I like duck neck as a nutritional bone, depending on the size of the dog, of course.
American Akita, 75 pounds.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah,
she should handle.
Fine. she can handle that easily. It's like they crunch them enough, and I do believe we feed our dogs too much chicken. I don't think we feed our dogs enough red meat. So I'm always making the conscious decision to try to get more red meat in and not avoid chicken, or not use so much chicken, I should say.
Right.
And fish. I'm feeding fish at least as part of the meal several days a week. Whether it's those sardines, I have a great source of wild caught Alaskan pollock that are frozen in planks, and they're exceedingly convenient. They defrost in like 5 minutes.
That helps.
So, when I forget to thaw stuff, it's my go-to.
Good.
Yeah. And gosh, make friends with a farmer if you're in an area where you can. My technician has chickens and ducks, and I get chicken and duck eggs from him that, they're pasture fed. They are so different from supermarket eggs, even from my ones that I get at the co-op that are supposedly a little better. And the dogs just love them.
You see, that's the hard part about here is that I may be in the country, but we don't have any. So it's very strange. And I'm always advocating all pet parents that are looking to actually go holistic it is very hard to do it here. I'm not in a big city. So your big box stores are a Walmart, and you have a market, and you're going to have to work around that. And it is challenging.
Yeah. Although there are more and more raw food co-ops springing up, where we have them here. I mean, people drive stuff from Buffalo to Albany, which is 4 hours, but it's like caravan in segments. The other thing that can work is some of your restaurant supply stores, and it might mean you drive away, but get a big freezer and you go 4 times a year, and just load up your freezer.
Well, people like Guthier, she does stuff like that, and I think that she's just amazing.
Oh, she's wonderful.
So I literally I'll follow everything that she does, and I may go a different direction, but I love these conversations too, because we're all in the same kind of blowing club, and we're like, oh, so this is what we do, this is what you do. Is this good? Is that good? I love these conversations.
Yeah. And around here, depending on what your feelings are about it, we have deer hunters here. And a lot of times they will give you like the organ meat, or they'll have deer from last year that they're getting another deer, so they want to part with their old deer that's been in the freezer all year. Hey, I am fine with that.
Right. Yeah.
I did have someone say, well, those deer are out there eating GMO corn. And I'm thinking, I don't know how much time they're spending in the cornfield, but I still stack them against any cow I can get my hands on. That was raised in a stockyard.
Deer is a lot better than beef, and then you've got so many issues on what farm it comes. Oh boy, I personally don't eat meat, and I've had this argument, and I'm sure you have too, where people are like, "Well, I'm vegetarian or I'm vegan, so my dog is too." How do I?
Oh, it makes me, and I really respect you for feeding your dog according to his biological needs, despite what you have chosen for yourself.
But
I run into it.
I can go without it. I have other supplements that I can take. They can't. Exactly.
Right.
Oh.
And the ultimate worst, the obligate carnivore, the cat.
Yes. Oh my God.
People try to make their cat vegan. It's just a disaster.
How do you do it? How could you? And look, if anybody's listening that actually is a vegan, I'm not trying to put you down, and that's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm trying to have this conversation. I don't know how to tell somebody that a cat is going to be vegan. I can't tell somebody a dog can be vegan. How can you?
No.
How do you actually have that conversation?
Well, I mean, I always start it with, I respect you for your beliefs. Yeah. And, I think in many ways you're right. Even if you don't want to give up meat totally, we should all be eating less meat for a myriad. But your dog's biology, or your cat, requires animal protein. That's just the hard and fast biological fact. It's like pandas. They have to have bamboo. We can't make them synthetic bamboo or tofu bamboo and expect them to live. And, maybe if, you can't, and I have vegans and vegetarians who feed their dog raw. And they're like, I don't like handling meat, but it's the price I pay for keeping my pet healthy. Okay, that's wonderful. A lot of them will choose the commercial raw, so they're not doing a lot of cutting and stuff. That's fine. It's still not kibble, and it still contains fresh meat. Some will choose like the dehydrated, like an Honest Kitchen, and then crack an egg in it or something. I've got to be fine with that because it's not vegetarian, it's not vegan, because dogs and cats can't do that.
Yeah, they just can't. Yeah, and see, I only do the choice of not actually eating meat because I don't like the actual. What's the best word of using? But the nature of
factory farming.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Well, and again, I mean, there's the lowest form of meat, thinking the factory farms where there is abuse in awful conditions, and there's the best form of meat, which is totally free range, kindly treated, humanely slaughtered. Right. And everybody's going to pick their spot on that continuum, and the ultimate continuum is the animals are not slaughtered.
Right.
They live and you choose to eat, a vegetarian or vegan diet. And that's great. We can do that.
Well, yeah, we can. We can. They can.
We can.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, all you have to do is look at the animal's teeth to know what it's designed to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
The horses and cows, they're designed for vegetation and grind it up. Cats and dogs have those big old canine teeth that are designed to bite into flesh and shred it.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to ask you the soapbox question. Now, I have a lot of time, and I love veterinarians because you guys really do have the best soapbox moments, but I'll go to Walmart, and I pass that dreaded aisle, with kibble, and
God.
I have a tendency to make my way down there and have conversations.
You are a brave man.
I am. My wife always says, "Okay, let's keep going." Now, I'm always curious. Do you have soapbox moments at any point in time, or is it just I'm just insane?
No, I definitely have wanted to have soapbox moments many times. Whether it's my moments occur at the checkout line.
Oh my God!
When I see that woman in front of me with the 20-pound bag of Friskies or some cheap cat food, cheap dry cat food. They have to understand the ACVM, the American College of Veterinary Internal Medicine, very conservative, traditional group of specialist veterinarians. In their journal, they published an article stating, study, referencing how bad it was for cats to eat dry cat food in terms of increasing the risk for both kidney disease, diabetes, as well as becoming overweight. ACVIM, total evidence-based medicine, people get it. But we still got people buying 20-pound bags of dry cat food. So I do want to say something. Usually I read myself because, they didn't come to that store to hear from me. But I might go home and write a blog about it, blast it all over the place. So I guess that's becoming my soapbox is the internet and social media. Try to share stuff in as non-confrontational a way. I have a tendency to rant sometimes.
Me too.
And sometimes it doesn't, because I'm passionate about this. I want people to have the healthiest pet they can have. But sometimes it isn't received as well as it would be as more gentle education, shall we say.
You're better than I am. I mean, I really, look, I understand everybody is thinking that they're doing the right thing, and they all have,
right.
I think 99.9% of people have the intent. They're doing the right thing, and they're trying.
And look at the marketing that teaches them they're doing the right thing. On that bag of dry food, it says, leave food out at all times with fresh water. That's the worst thing you can do for a kitty. You know, they're not designed to grade. When I left vet school in 91, I was told my senior rotation, you will see 5 diabetic dogs for every single diabetic cat. Now I probably see 10 diabetic cats for every single diabetic dog. Because the cats are being so affected by eating the amount of carbohydrates and dry food. And there's so little protein, and it's just killing them.
The dehydration.
And let's talk about the balance. Yeah, because they don't drink enough to start with, and then they eat something that's 90% dry. It just dehydrates them.
And then you get the UTIs, and you've got all these.
Well, and think, how many cats do you hear about with kidney disease at age 10? It used to be that was a 15-year-old cat's problem. Now we have chronic kidney disease age 10 or sooner. Now we'll allude to vaccines, but I suspect we'll come back to this later. There are studies that show that the feline distemper vaccine will trigger the production of antibodies against the cat's kidneys because of the tissues that virus the vaccine virus has been grown on. So, you know, are we vaccinating our cats and sensitizing them to their kidneys? Potentially. Not a good thing.
And it seems, now, we're already on vaccination, so I'm not even going to come back to it.
Okay.
There's so many issues, and what's nice that you're passionate about it. I mean,
yes.
One, you've obviously experienced it, but 2, you see it all the time, and you've seen the studies about over-vaccination. I have this conversation with people as well, and that is, are you sure that your dog or cat needs a vaccination? Have you gotten a titer yet? And
and sadly, many people in my profession don't advocate for titers. They, for some reason, don't believe them, despite the fact that they're used to tell us as veterinarians when we need another rabies vaccination for ourselves. They get them priced out of range of many consumers when it shouldn't cost that much. And sadly, many people have a budget. They're like, oh, the titer is this much, the vaccine is a quarter of that, I'll take the vaccine.
Well, I hear somewhere that some of them can go upwards to $300 to $350 to get a titer, where it should only be like $40.
Well, it should. I wouldn't say $40. I mean, you have to account for what the laboratory test actually costs, and you have to give the vet some money for the overhead.
Oh no,
but it should be under 100.
Right,
for sure.
I've heard as
in any part of the country.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
And then of course, then I hear there's this ridiculous amount of $350, and I'm just. The question is, why is it become almost? Why has it become?
Because my profession is slow change, and I think no veterinarian got into this business either to harm animals or to make a truckload of money. Because the reality is, we're told, look, you're not going to make a truckload of money, and you got in here because you love animals, you enjoy working with them. We've all lived through, the bad parvo years and stuff. Older veterinarians have seen major cases of distemper. I actually, at a shelter I worked with, they had an outbreak of feline distemper, and they basically had to depopulate the shelter. So these diseases are real and life-threatening. And I think some folks are just not willing to take a chance. They know the vaccine works. They haven't personally experienced the harm. So they think it's a benign treatment. Oh, it's just a vaccine. I don't have to worry about this. Give it to the dog. They don't perceive a risk. But when you kill the dog with a vaccine, or you've had your own dog get sick because of that, it kind of changes your perspective and makes it a little more open to looking deeper.
Now, what can be the best thing that we can tell any pet parent who's on the fence about vaccinating? What is the best thing? Because I've been asked this question. What do we do? How do we? When is the right time? Because you hear that there are some that are you can do a 3 years, some are 1 year, and people are worried. People are concerned, and I'm concerned.
People are concerned. Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing let's talk about is rabies. I mean, rabies still exists in certainly, my part of the world, and many other, most states have rabies. All states require rabies vaccination. To my knowledge, all states will now accept a 3-year vaccine, which is very big. And of course, we have Gene Dodd's Schultz Project, the Rabies Challenge Fund, proving that the rabies vaccine will last for 5 or 7 years. And the data on that should be coming out relatively soon, the final data. But, you got to keep your dog legal. So you're in May, let's talk about New York, since that's what I know. Every 3 years, New York requires you to booster your dog's rabies vaccine. Now, it does provide me with, as do most states, a medical exemption for a dog whose life could be harmed by giving the vaccine, which is great. I have a cancer dog. I have a dog with autoimmune hemolytic anemia. We're never giving that dog another vaccine, ever, because we could trigger another bout. It does limit, to some degree in New York, the owner's right, should that dog ever bite someone or come in contact with a rabid animal. The health department always becomes involved, and everything is geared towards protecting human health. But the methods, the means to avoid harming exist, which is wonderful. In terms of distempers and such, I would invite anybody to go to my website, read my vaccine protocol. That is what I recommend, and that is what I would do for my own dog. And basically, it involves a puppy vaccine and checking a titer, and probably never vaccinating your dog again for distemper.
Which is kind of
and when I say distemper, I mean distemper parvo.
Right. And I think that's brilliant. I was reading that, and I was like, that's just it's logic right there in itself, and it makes sense.
Well, and although I am holistic and natural in my approach, I like science.
Right.
And to me, a titer is science. It is proof that dog's immune system is functioning. And I don't know why my colleagues don't see it that way, because we're all trained in science. We're all scientists. I do think some folks may be worried that people won't bring their dogs in every year for a checkup, because there may be people who won't, because unless their dog has to have something administered that they can't do at home, they aren't coming in and spending the money. I can give you a lot of value in an office call without vaccinating your dog for anything, and teach you such and explore in my physical exam what's going on with your dog, what you need to watch for, what's going well and what's not going so well. That's very valuable to an owner.
But even, when you say, you're holistic, but you're also a scientist, I don't discredit being holistic as not a science as well. There is a great deal of knowledge that goes into it. And you have to understand what works and what doesn't work. It does become very scientific. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, and I guess that mainstream veterinary medicine argues against alternative things because there's never been a double-blind, placebo-controlled study. Well, let's take the ultimate right now, cannabis and the cannabinoid product. Nobody's going to do a study on them because there's not the money there to prove it. Compared to pharmaceutical companies that are loaded, the companies that are going to put out a cannabinoid product don't have those resources. And where are they going to get the test subjects? Let's say we're talking about cancer. If you have a cancer dog and they're telling you a cannabinoid or cannabis can help, but your dog's going to get the placebo, are you going to let your dog participate in a study? No. You want the hope.
And what's funny is that you bring up the cannabis, and I had somebody who does that on the podcast a while back ago, and I think it's just an absolute great step. I think it's an amazing step, and it is another step in science that I don't see why we're not exploring.
And on the human side, there are so many case reports and positive viewpoint research papers. But The traditional or the evidence-based medicine viewpoint is it has to be this kind of study to prove it beyond a doubt. And I guess I've reached the point where I'm confident enough in my own assessment. I don't need proven without a doubt. I just need to see it
Exactly.
for myself.
But see, that's, you know what, I think that anybody who is involved in their parent, in their pet's life like we are, yes, you are, no doubt about it, you're brilliant. And, for the rest of us out there, we just have to read probably 10 times more just to stay up on it. But we can still learn this stuff, and
of course,
it's right there. And I don't understand.
It's right there. But I think we're in a good time right now.
Yeah.
There are loads of holistic veterinarians and other authorities putting out amazing content. A lot of it free. Some of it, yes, you have to pay for. I mean, you have to pay me to talk to you, because otherwise I have to work at the clinic to put a roof over my head.
Right.
But the value that we can give you and how much we can teach you is huge.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, you've got people like Kimberly putting out phenomenal information in a very understandable form.
Right.
You've got Rod at Adirondack giving away, 2.5 hours of content on their cancer research, all for free. It goes away in a couple days, so hopefully everybody's seen it.
How do you miss it?
How do you miss it? No.
Gosh,
Just wait there. There are more exciting things to come. But we live in an information age, and if you are passionate about finding that information, you will be able to help your pet. It's that simple.
And we have so much different things, social media and YouTube and all these different options that are out there. I mean, it is there. But then here's the big kicker. We're still feeding kibble. And there's still such a huge problem.
Well, because some people will look and some people won't. And I think we fall into the trap of the convenience of kibble. I mean, hey, 2 scoops and some water and you're done. How many of my clients, I don't cook for myself, I could never cook for my dog. I get told that often. I say, well, the good news is you only have to defrost. And they're like, oh, really? You won't die from the chicken bones this winter?
No.
But,
that's not the worst.
people are busy. People are busy.
Okay, don't you, and you have to hear this one. And I hate this. I hate it, but I can't feed my dogs raw because they'll get salmonella.
Oh, right. When studies published in the Journal of the ACMA, the Veterinary Medical Association, show, I don't know how many times more salmonella and E. coli fed in the stool of kibble-fed dogs than raw-fed dogs. Then, again, conservative veterinary organizations published this very big study. And you know what? If you're picking up your dog's poop, wash your hands. Don't do it with your bare hands.
Yep.
Buy a poop scooper. Use a doggy bag. Whatever. Poop bag. They make it seem. I had someone actually. My last litter of puppies, the girls are they'll turn 2 in December. But I had an owner come to me when they were about 1 year old. He said they'd seen my puppies, they loved them. They really, really would like a puppy for my next litter. And they're an A-list home. And I'm like, oh, sure, let's put a puppy in your hands if I have the right puppy. They do agility. They're just lovely people. And they said, but you don't sell to non-raw feeding homes. And I said, no, I do not. And she said, well, we can't do that. We have a child. I'm thinking, is the child, eating the raw? I was flabbergasted. It's like, look, I'm going to potentially give you the dog of your dreams. And you're not willing to take that little leap with the promise of support. So, not happening.
And I don't understand. Did they think their child would go and eat out of the dog bowl?
I don't know. I elected to just take the high road. But like I said, I love these people, and they have 2 Aussies from other people, and the dogs are well-trained, impeccably groomed, cared for very well. have a great life. And I'd love to give them a dog, but not if it's going to eat kibble. And, you know, educate yourself. And one of us, they're not vegetarian, so they handle meat. Wash your hands. That's all. Don't feed spoiled meat. Be sensible. Common sense.
That's still been the hardest thing, though. When educating,
it is the hardest thing.
How do you educate?
Well, and I think, and how do you educate against the panic that is caused by reading about the recalls, even of tomatoes? Remember when tomatoes and packaged salads are getting recalled for listeria? You know, if you check yourself if you've got this, you know, put gloves on and throw it out. You know, scaring people is a very effective manipulation technique, if you will. In this case, the marketing manipulation. I'll feed our kibble, it's safe.
I don't know how.
Not so much.
Right? How is it safe? I mean, now you're coming up after a two-parter. It was supposed to be a three-parter. We were supposed to have AFCO, PFI, and the FDA. The FDA.
Wow.
Yeah. The FDA elected to run and turn.
Take a pass.
Yeah, they ran the other way, like the cowards. And I mean, I'm openly very much now against the FDA, and for good reason. Now, why is the FDA allowing big pet food to get away with selling murder?
To break the law?
Yeah.
Break the law? I don't know. I don't know. But, you know, when you read the Food and Cosmetics Act, you know, it clearly states that, you know, this is adulterated and it's not allowed. But in the other section, it says, except for pet food.
Yeah.
I don't know, and Susan Sixton would probably be the authority I would go to.
I've talked to her.
Say, in history, is there some historical reason where we wanted something up and it wasn't? But let me digress a little into what goes into pet food. When I was a vet student at Cornell, one of our rotations was pathology, which means we did post-mortem or necropsy exam on every animal that died in the hospital or was put down. So that meant horses, cows, sheep, goats, not as commonly, lots of dogs and cats. Now, afterward, there was a large walk-in cooler area where the bodies were placed for disposal. The dogs and cats were put in a certain area for cremation, and Cornell had a cremation service right there. And the horses and cattle and basically food animals, goats, pigs, if you had one, were placed in barrels, and a rendering company came and took those parts. And that's called meat meal, meat bone meal, beef meal, whatever. Now, many of those animals died of disease, or they died of being euthanized. And that meant euthanasia drug was in that muscle tissue. That went into pet food.
That's why
occasionally
the barbitol issue that happened here.
Yeah, and they were potentially sourcing horses from a slaughterhouse in Texas, but I don't know that that's been proven, or from other places. But, you know, occasionally did a dog or cat fall in the barrel? Yeah. Was anybody going in there and fishing it out? No. So, I mean, I can't lie, you know, I, from personal experience, can say it's very probable that dead dogs and cats have wound up in pet food.
And it shocks me.
And
it shocks me.
It does. It does. How does anybody say, oh, there's a horse that tragically, you know, was euthanized because he broke his leg? Let's feed him to spot. I would never think that. You know, I guess, you know, there is a practicality to it of what you do with all these animals. Not enough room in the landfill, but, I mean, I guess I'm of the opinion if something dies, you either bury it or cremate it. You don't feed it to something else.
Well, it's like I don't know if you've heard about this one, but now this is one of the reasons why I don't eat pork. But I think it was said like 90 or 95% of all pigs that are slaughtered have pneumonia. And I'm thinking to myself,
Really?
that number is high. But it was in that proximity.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if even if I'm going to cook my food, I still don't know if I really want to have that as an issue in front of me. That's why I stayed away from pork. Was that reason?
Yeah. I don't know a lot about farming at all.
Yeah.
I do know I've been in pig barns, and the air was definitely tight in there because they packed the pigs in. And I can imagine a factory farming situation having problems. One of the most important animal husbandry techniques, whether you're talking about a dog boarding kennel, a pig farm, a cow farm, whatever, is having adequate ventilation and a certain number of air changes per hour. Because otherwise you're courting respiratory disease. So I could picture a factory farm that just isn't well ventilated. And yeah, you could have chronic respiratory disease progressing to pneumonia.
And that's just staggering to me. Yeah, I was like, oh,
yeah,
that threw my hands in the air. I'm going, well, there went bacon for me. I love bacon. when I got
no, and unless it's a free range pig, and again, on that nice lived a good life, treated well, kindly sort of side, that's the only bacon you can eat.
Right. And that's my thought. I'm like, how many times are we going to have that Charlotte's Web moment where, the pig is actually going to be treated like that? It's just very rich. Yeah. So, that's a hard one. And see, imagine where my mind was. I mean, I don't have your knowledge. I would be dangerous if I had your knowledge because my brain's always thinking. Now, you look at you can see the full anatomy. I can see maybe part of it, but I can only imagine what it would be like. So that's where I always wonder, what's the hardest part to be in a vet? What's your hardest part?
That's a great question. Everybody wants to say, oh, because you have to euthanize animals.
Right.
And truthfully, generally speaking, that's not. It's always sad because it means, somebody's losing their best bud. Somebody's been beaten by a disease, maybe cancer. But, we all have an expiration date, as somebody said to me today. And, I know, as sad and as hard as it is, that I can do it gently and passionately for all concerned.
Right.
So, that's, I have so many people tell me I could never be a vet, I could never put down an animal. It's like, well, actually, you learn. And sometimes it's a gift. Because I've seen animals that really were suffering. And, you don't realize it, at least from the owner's point of view. They've seen their animal in this awful state of pain and agony. And when I do a euthanasia, I do pre-medicate them with a good sedative, get some Valium in it and some other things. So there's mental relaxation and blocking of pain. And the owners uniformly tell me, once that's given and that drug kicks in, they're like, he looks like he used to look years ago. Because the body carries that pain. Mm-hmm. And when they relax, it's like they're themselves again. So those ones, it just needs to happen. Hardest part, probably, I had one guy tell me it was only a dog. And I about walked out of the room. Those are really frustrating. And I think sometimes owners who just, they can't get it, whatever, is going on with that, they just can't wrap their mind around it. They don't want to do something, but they don't want to not do something. Or this is a pet peeve category. They can't do it because they're either going on vacation, they just got back from vacation, or they're out a month of the vacation. Those are very frustrating.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's your dog. Give plans and you cancel or whatever, you find a way. Dog is much more important than vacation.
Well, we wouldn't say the same thing about our kids. So, I'm sorry, we just came back from vacation.
Right.
My kid's arm is broke.
Yeah. No problem. We'll have to wait a month to get that.
Yeah, does time heal it? Yeah, I can totally see where that would be an issue. And, I'm thinking about the whole process of euthanization. And if the dog or cat is in pain, what's worse?
Oh, yeah.
To allow that?
I mean, yeah. So I dog with a bone tumor that's on the verge of fracturing. I mean, it's excruciating pain. And every muscle and tissue in their body is contracting and inflamed and just reacting to that.
Yeah.
And there's, I don't really want to say a sense of satisfaction, but maybe a sense of relief that you can stop that from happening.
When you said after you give the sedatives, you said that the dog actually regains its almost expressions.
Right.
And I hate to say this, but the same look, the same effect goes over. And again, it may sound a little morbid, but it's the truth. The same goes when you apply kibble to raw food.
Mm-hmm.
The same expression from this
interesting observation.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
because it's that depressed. You almost see that mopiness, or you put a bowl of kibble down. And look, I'm guilty like many people. I fed my dogs and cats kibble.
Oh, I fed kibble.
I didn't know any better. But I'll tell you, when I actually changed it, my dog she is the happiest 9-year-old Akita, and you know as much as I do what an Akita's temperament can be, and their unfortunate repercussions. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
She jumps around. She's been doing circles at 9, and she's happy for food. If I would have put down a bowl of kibble,
that is great.
She would look at me and go, "Oh, you're gonna kill me." And that mopiness, that gray look that a dog would have.
Yeah.
I'm not talking hair color. The aura of that gray. Oh, this again.
Oh, it's this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had somebody who had, of course, raised their dog on raw. They put down kibble, the dogs wouldn't eat it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. My dogs would eat it. My dogs would eat anything that I put in the bowl. But the number of people I say, he's so satisfied with, this guy with the cavalier that I spoke about earlier, they dump leftovers in the bowl. And he said, when we have leftover steak and I cut it up and I put it in there and I stir it around, the dog dives in. I'm like, yes, that's normal. That's what they should be doing.
You're right. Right.
But he was really enthusiastic, and I'm very optimistic about him doing well with feeding the diet as long. I made him say, "You're going to make this switch. You have to tell me you're going to do this slowly," because they get very eager, as you well know. And all of a sudden, they've fed the dog a huge meal of meat and such, and thrown in some liver, and it's got diarrhea and falling up to push me out.
And it really isn't that difficult to do the transition. Now, I haven't really done my education on detoxing. That's one thing I have no real background on in the detox process.
Okay.
So that I'm a little lost on. But with anything experience I have, I've never had the diarrhea or any of the problems. But I imagine that with kibble, and when you're changing over from kibble to raw, or any kind of appropriate diet, there is that transition. Now, I'm not sure what is some of the things that should be looked for. I mean, if you're in kibble, I've heard you're supposed to still feed part kibble for 2 weeks with them.
There are many ways and many strong beliefs about whether kibble and raw should be mixed. One thing I will say, like my population of people that I transition are often dogs with pre-existing health issues.
Yeah.
So switching out a healthy dog to raw, I mean, I'll just do that. I have a friend who often I'll babysit a puppy for a while, and she'll always forget to send some kibble, and I'll not have some. And it's like, that dog's eating raw today. Okay, they have zero problem. But, think of the dog with chronic GI disease, dog anal gland problems, they're vomiters, they have whatever. Those I go gradually. And I will introduce the vegetable part first, and then I will introduce meat as snack. I will sometimes use supplements to support the GI tract as I do the transition. Some people will tell you should never ever mix kibble and raw because they do digest very differently. Some people will say it's the AM full meal and the PM raw meal. I think every dog is an individual, and you try it, and if it's not working, you try something else. I'll use a fast sometime if things start going south, either half day or full day, and get it done. I usually transition most dogs within a week. Sick dogs I'm talking about, not healthy dogs.
I hate to say it. My only thing I've always told people, and again, they're always healthy. Now there was we had one dog come in today, and I said just go and transition immediately. It had skin irritation, flaky skin. The same thing as the majority of the dogs that I see. And I was just like, just start a raw diet immediate and get rid of the kibble. And I don't think there would be really a transition problem. They were a little shocked, but they were just like, ooh, I like it. But, I mean, like you said, the GI tract would be an issue. I mean, I would think that there would be very, very limited amounts of issues, but I'm always saying, just throw the kibble away. And I'm in complete agreement. Some of the population. And remember, some of these dogs that I see have been vaccinated every year for 7 years. They've got GI disease. Yeah, their skin and coat is poor quality from what we've been wanting. They're not used to a lot of dietary fat. They're not used to the richness of the raw diet. And their GI tract is not geared up enzymatically to deal with that amount of protein and fresh meat. It's geared to dealing with carbs, which is one of the huge problems with kibble. Right.
And actually, it was really funny. I was looking online today just to get a feel for, some of the food. What's the carb content? Because sooner probably than later, dog food companies are going to be required to list the carbohydrate content on their food.
I hope.
Which currently they do not have. And that'll make it a lot easier for consumers. So, I'm looking at, some over-the-counter brands, and they're 48, 49% carbs, which is ridiculous. I went to a prescription diet intended for skin disease in dogs, 56% carbs.
Ooh.
The first thing, oh my God, the first ingredient was like potatoes, second was tapioca, third was potato starch. Like, how are we going to nourish this ailing body on 56% essentially sugar?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Well, it's same.
But if the dog is used to digesting that, they don't have the enzymes they need to do a quick switch to raw. So you need to help them out, that's all.
Well, it's like, are you going to
either supplement?
Are you eating fast food every day? No. Then why is your dog?
No. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But 56%. The minimum amount you need to actually make it into the physical form of kibble is 40%. It's crazy.
That is so high.
But to think of 56 in a food that's probably over $100 for a 30-pound bag.
And you're just buying. Go get some bag of Old Roy if we're going to spend that kind of money. It's the same thing.
True. And maybe less carbs.
Yes. I've made that. I've made that.
Have corn in there.
I've had that argument down that aisle in Walmart. Well, why are you spending $80 for this? You can spend $20 and you get more, and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an argument that I'll tell you. It goes nowhere, and yet they still point at the dumbest things on the bag and say, "But this has this amount." No, it's still bad. And my gosh. Well, let's move on to another topic.
Okay.
Because we'll stay on this topic forever. Now, you wrote a book, The Holistic Vet's Guide to Vaccinating Your Dog.
Right.
And I think that's amazing. And I wanted to know what was the influence and what, where are you going to go from here? Are you going to write more?
Well, obviously it needs an update because, we have the influenza to talk about. So anybody who's thinking about buying the book, don't buy the book. Wait, let me come out with a second edition because there's some gaps in there that need. In terms of inspiration, my own dog, Rue, that I told you had autoimmune hemolytic anemia. And, which I vaccinated him every 6 months for every disease we could because he was going to dog shows. And in hindsight, knowing what I know now, I would never have done that. And there was another dog, which I talked about in the introduction, that was a 4-month-old puppy from a rescue group, a lab vet. And that was my 9:15 appointment on a Saturday morning. And I was just doing a distemper parvo, and it had one before. And I was ironically giving exactly the same vaccine the rescue group had given at an appropriate interval 4 weeks later. And I vaccinated that dog in room 6 of the hospital I was working in. This is how vivid the memory is. And before I could get the needle out of the dog's skin, it was reacting.
Oh, no.
And she went into a full-blown seizure. She went unconscious. I did everything I knew. She had fluids, she had drugs, she had intensive care, and died at 2 o'clock that afternoon.
Oh.
Despite my best effort. And that was like the wake-up call of these vaccines are incredibly potent medical treatments. And we need to treat them like that. And, 4-month-old puppy, she had one vaccine before in her life. So, it wasn't a case of chronic over-vaccination. She wasn't battling 5 other diseases. She was a young, healthy puppy. And she was gone. So, you go through that, you develop a healthy respect. And it kills me every day. I work with veterinarians who are not vaccine aware. And they think nothing of administering multiple vaccines at a time to a dog that I know I would titer and so didn't need it. And they can't perceive the danger. And I guess until you've lived it, and until you've had to look that owner in the eye and say, I'm really sorry, and the owner asks, did the vaccine kill my dog? And I have to say yes. Not through any of our intentions, and our intention was always to protect her. And certainly a dog needs, the current theory, dogs need 2 distemper parvo vaccines to guarantee immunity. But in this case, it went really, really south. So, following that, I had people constantly ask me, well, what do you do for your dogs? What would you do? And I said, Tyler, I'll just write it down. So it became a short book. And my goal was to have something very readable, very easy, very much something an owner could stick in their pocket for that visit and say, well, let me look. And to teach people how to talk to the veterinarian and how to say, I don't want to do that today. I need more information. I need to do my research. I don't want to do that. I need to do it tighter. Just empower them because they get white coat syndrome and anybody in a white coat can talk them into anything with no effort. And that's not necessarily a good thing, whether we're talking about human medicine or veterinary medicine.
Right. Wow. But you know what? You grew from that, and you became a better veterinarian because of this.
Yeah.
And probably, as hard as it is, what hardship was really has helped so many people. I mean, look at you. You're
agree. And like I said, I forgive myself the mistakes I made, but I require myself to grow from them.
Right.
And, whether it's my own dog that, like I said, I vaccinated every 6 months because that's what, the professor said to do. You can't carry the guilt around, for a mistake you made in good conscience.
Right.
Because it'll get in your way of being better. And the goal is always to be better.
But see, that's the thing, though. You took this negative and you did turn it into a massive positive that is continuing to grow. So I commend you.
That's my goal.
And
thank you.
So when are we hopefully going to see the updated version 2.0?
Version 2.0, I guarantee you it will probably not be out for the expo.
Okay.
So the expo, as you know, is in April of next year, where I'm bringing together some really amazing dog health experts in Albany, New York, for a one-day, let us teach you everything we possibly can put in your little brain. Mm-hmm. But hopefully soon after that. And I'm toying with the idea, I'm still doing the research of, could I put this in as an online course? In other words, would people really prefer to watch videos and read a little bit on their computer, or do they want a book to hold in their hand? Or can I somehow give them a little of both?
From my experience in doing this podcast, I've seen it done in both ways. I've seen it done in a digital form, but I've also seen it physical, because a lot of people are still saying, I don't want to actually use my Kindle, or I don't want to use my smartphone.
Right.
I want to hold something physically.
Hold it in my hand. Yeah.
So I think that in both formats have benefits.
Yeah.
So I think both are great, and it's just, if it's not a hardship, I would go with both. That way you've covered.
Yeah, or somehow they have to have something to take into the vet's office.
Yeah.
That is physical.
Yeah.
But they can put some blank pages in for note taking and such. So I'll have it figured out not too far away.
Well, that's a good thing. Now you're great at segues. So you're starting in on Healthy Dog Expo, which is April 7th, 2018. Now you have things that'll starting in November. To kind of get everything.
Yeah, we're opening registration in November.
And now I know Kimberly was just absolutely huge when it came to this, and I think that she even said she wanted to do something in 19. I think that
she's thinking about it. I'm trying to get her out here, but she's a little concerned about travel time and weather. So we'll see.
April's not. It's still you're past the February, March. I mean.
Right.
And I know she's, for a fact, I can tell you without a doubt, I know she's listening to this. So when this, so it's funny, it's always funny when you're recording this, you're recording it now, but it's being listened to in the future. So future Kimberly is listening right now. But, so if there's any kind of advice you want to give her, she is definitely listening.
She's going to be out there, you bet.
And I encourage her to actually go and do it. Now, with the actual expo itself, you were saying it's going to be a one-day event. Now, will you stream?
It's year one.
Will you stream anything, or will it just be?
I am working on a streaming arrangement. I don't know yet. We're actually working with a youth group. It's a training program for them in photography, film, and social media type stuff. Okay. So it's part of their education. And, our thought was, well, let's give them a live event to stream. And, essentially throw them off the deep end with some training and see what they can do. So, and then of course, their professor is top notch, and we'll make sure that it goes off without a hitch. But, coordinate with the hotel, this is just an adventure of, speakers, hotel, travel, all the ancillaries. It's quite an experience, but I'm looking forward to this.
So what kind of sneak peek can we actually get in on before the release?
Before the release, well, we have some amazing exhibitors and sponsors. This is a kibble-free event, so anybody who wants to come buy dog food, I have raw, I have cooked, and I have dehydrated. Those are your options. I have some amazing physical therapy products for the swag bag from a company that I can't tell you about yet. I have a really interesting company doing some sponsorship where the owner actually makes all sorts of salves and soothing type products for the skin of dogs and paws and such herself. She totally designed the line. She's sending us samples. Totally organic, all the way what we would be wanting in terms of non-chemical, non-GMO for the herbal extract and plant extracts. Really nice product line. I have Dr. Judy Morgan coming to talk. Probably she's going to talk about vaccines, so I don't have to. I have Suzanne Clothier, who is, anybody in dog training will recognize her name. She was a pioneer in teaching dogs how to jump correctly, which was a basis of agility type training. And she does a lot of behavior things. She's a best-selling author. She wrote a phenomenal book called Bones Would Rain from the Sky about our relationships with dogs. Really interesting viewpoint. I, of course, have Susan Dixon coming to talk from Truth About Pet Food. And with her, we are going to have Jeff Sleater, who is the attorney for the Avengers Pub. Mm-hmm. Remember that sad case of the dog dying because of the pentobarbital?
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately. So Jess is a class action attorney, and she's representing them, and she has a couple other dog food, dog product related consumer cases. And part of their presentation is going to deal with what to do if you think your dog was harmed by a food or product, which is something I don't think I've ever come across.
I don't think so.
As a step-by-step what to do. So I'm really excited about their presentation. Something that has never been done. And Susan, of course, will have all sorts of updates from AFCO and FDA and all her adventures.
I think
she gets out there.
You should just change it to The Adventures of Susan Dixon. I think that would be a better name. She's just amazing.
I think that she is amazing. And, as one person, she has done more for pet food safety and supporting consumers than anyone I ever know.
Yes. Her knowledge, I can study for the next 10 years, and I'm still not going to scratch the surface. I told her that when I had her on. I was just amazed with her. I talked to Judy Morgan as well. Again, another pioneer. As you can tell, again, I love to empower women who are doing these things, and I love to lift them up.
Did you notice? I didn't mention my final guest is Debbie Gross-Baraka, who's probably the foremost canine physical therapist in the world, and teaches at the University of Tennessee program, teaching people who want to become canine physical therapists. And she runs Wizard of Paws in Connecticut, in Colchester. But you notice I have an all-woman panel.
And I'm fully
because we are taking it over.
And I'll mention something that we talked about before we started recording, and that was the comparison between the man's world and why women are doing such a better job and taking over. The compassion, the attention to detail. Look, I may be a guy, but I take the back seat. I say, hey, you know what? I see so many positive things from women, and I'm just saying, you know what? I can only learn from you guys, and I wish that everybody could look that way and see it. It's amazing.
It really is, and anybody, I think, definitely each gender has their strengths and I don't want to say weaknesses, but holes, if you will.
Yeah.
But anybody who really wants to learn can.
Right. That's true.
And, you can find a teacher out there. You just have to keep looking sometimes.
My teacher is my daughter. I learned so much from my 9-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you.
You can learn so much from kids. Absolutely.
You
do.
She is my...
their viewpoint and there's an innocence. There's no agenda there. They just look at it as what it is and tell you what they think.
And it's truth. There's 100% truth. And that's
truth.
We're all missing.
And honesty.
Yes.
Yeah.
We miss that as adults. We lose that. And I'm like, hey, you know what?
Well, we worry about what people are going to think, and, you know, are they going to think I'm foolish, or, you know, getting on my high horse, or whatever. No, kids avoid that. So what else do I need to tell you? Oh, I've got Canine Camp Getaway coming.
Do
you know about Canine Camp Getaway?
I did see that on your website. I did see that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've been there, one of their vets for several years. And it is the best 5 days or 4 days you'll have with your dog. It's a totally dog-centric vacation. We take over a dude ranch in Lake George, New York. Beautiful. Twice a year. And everything is geared around the dog. Dogs can go in the pool. There's hiking. There's arts and crafts. There's yappy hour. It's the day. All sorts of training things. We do a lot to benefit rescues and dog-related charities. Get a lot of dogs certified for Canine Good Citizen or therapy dog work. And it's like being surrounded by people who get you.
Right.
It's amazing.
It looks like the most relaxing getaway ever. Like
it is, because the rules are you can participate in the event or not. Or you can hang out at the pool, whatever works for you.
Sounds amazing.
It's amazing.
It just...
It is.
Is there anything we...
So that's I don't think so. I think we've covered everything.
And see, that's, you know, when we start this whole thing out, I'm always asked, how long is it? I'm always like, about an hour. And we go over that hour every time. And it's because...
Every time.
And I think, you know what?
I always say as long as it takes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or as long as the podcast actually allows you to have in time. Something like that.
Yeah, are there time limits on the podcast?
Unfortunately, yeah, you only have so many minutes that you actually can put on one episode. So
you have a part 2. That's all.
No, we're still in part 1. We still are underneath our marker, which is great. Yeah. That's why I was saying, is there anything else that we need to cover before we sign off?
No, I think you'll tell them how to find more information.
Oh, yeah.
And I would just encourage anybody, go to my website, go to the articles page, and read the stuff that I put up. If you want to read my blog, which sometimes a lot of my opinions, just scroll down on the front page.
I enjoy it.
But
I enjoy it. It's I like opinions. It is interesting to actually see. It's able to see you on your soapbox, or anybody on their soapbox.
Well, and it's opinions and also my experiences, because I think a lot of people don't know. You know, they think they know what a vet does. It's like those graphics that go around of, you know, what my mother thinks I do, what the public thinks I do, what I really do. There's a lot they don't know, and you know, we're all humans. Things frustrate us, things make us happy, and I think people benefit from getting a little behind the scenes stuff.
It helps.
So they can really know. Yeah.
Again, we hear all the time that there's a disconnect between pet parents and veterinarians. I really don't want there to be. That's why I'm always happy to have conversations, because honestly, there is a real interesting fine line between the two that really brings us all together. And yet, I don't.
Absolutely.
There's not really a disconnect. I just think that there might be some, communication issues. So,
right.
We have to do this work.
And that's influenced by the outside world. Excuse me. Sometimes the money factor.
Yeah.
And that's, God, if I could just say everybody needs pet insurance and you don't have to worry about money, that would be a great thing.
That's great.
But yeah, because it kills me when somebody's dog has blown their cruciate ligament or ACL, and I've got to tell them, look, you've got a big dog, it's going to be $3,000 for the surgeon to fix that.
Yeah.
And that's awful.
Yeah.
And if it was them that did it, they'd probably pay, $50 in co-pays, and that would be it.
Yeah. It's rough. It's a rough one. And again, it's just education and really conversation. You know, and when you use the word education, people tend to shy away, but you say the word conversation, and everybody's like, I'm there. So, that's where I'm always.
And hopefully having that conversation not at a time when you're stressed about your dog's health.
Exactly.
You know, having it in advance.
And it's the best time, right? Well, everybody.
Oh, totally.
That's this episode with Dr. Coger. Thank you for being on.
That's excellent.
This is Chris Green.
Thank you.
This is Chris Green. Have a fantastic week. Goodbye, everybody.
Okay, gotta go. It's my bedtime.